When the Bretsuis family bought their quiet house in Auburn, Pennsylvania, it felt completely ordinary. You know, the kind of place: silent country roads, old heavy trees, and walls that seemed thick with untold history. For years, life was normal. The house breathed like any other old home. It creaked at night as it settled. It held the chill of winter and the warmth of summer. Nothing felt wrong. Nothing felt out of place. Then, in 2015, they decided to do some renovations. They wanted to add insulation, a simple, practical upgrade. Workers arrived and started opening up the walls, peeling back layers of plaster and wood that hadn't seen the light of day in decades. At first, it was just what you'd expect: dust, old scraps of paper, the dry smell of aged wood. But then, a different smell began to creep into the air. It was faint at first, like damp earth mixed with something sour, something vaguely unsettling. As more of the wall came down, the odor grew stronger, pressing into the room, thick and heavy and just wrong. It was as if the house itself was finally exhaling a breath it had been holding for a very, very long time. And that's when they saw them. Behind the crumbling insulation, tucked between the wooden beams, were bundles. They were placed carefully, deliberately. These weren't just random objects that had fallen into the walls. This was intentional. Wrapped in yellowed newspapers from the 1930s and 1940s were the remains of animals. Small skeletons, mummified in their decay, hidden away with purpose. Some were bound with old, brittle string. Others were placed next to half-used spice jars, collections of dried herbs, and scraps of paper with handwritten notes. The ink bleeding into the fibers over the years. This wasn't a rat's nest. This wasn't an accident. This was a pattern. It wasn't just in one room. As the renovation continued, every wall they opened revealed the same disturbing secret. The walls of this house had been used for storage, not for tools, not for family keepsakes, but for rituals. Horrified and completely bewildered, the family gathered up hundreds of these strange items. They packed them into boxes and sent them to an expert in the nearby town of Kutztown, hoping, praying for some kind of rational explanation. What they got back was much, much worse. The expert confirmed their deepest fears. The artifacts were directly linked to a practice known as POWL, or Pennsylvania Dutch magic. This is a system of folk rituals brought over by German-speaking settlers who came to Pennsylvania centuries ago. On the surface, powwow was said to be for protection and healing. People used it to treat illnesses, to safeguard their livestock, or to bless a new home. It was a part of daily life for many. But the expert explained that this tradition had another side, quieter, darker side. Certain rituals involved burying or hiding animal remains inside the walls or foundations of a house. This was done to spiritually protect the home, to bind it, to seal it, or to ward off unseen malevolent forces. But some spells went even further than just protection. They spoke of control, of attachment, of loyalty, even of summoning. The expert described one documented ritual that used blood to bind an animal's will to its owner forever. And then there were the spells that were never spoken of aloud, the ones kept secret. The Bretsuis family started to connect the dots, and a chilling realization began to dawn on them. The animals in their walls weren't random. Their placement followed ancient patterns, patterns meant to anchor something or someone to the house. These spells were designed to keep something from leaving, or maybe to keep something else from getting out, or perhaps from getting in. Soon after this discovery, the strange occurrences turned physical. Members of the family started falling ill. They suffered from persistent headaches, constant nausea, and a deep, unshakable fatigue. At first, they thought it must be mold. After all, the decaying remains had been festering in the walls for nearly a century. But doctors couldn't explain why the symptoms felt so heavy. This wasn't just a normal sickness. The air inside the house felt oppressive, suffocating. Even after they had cleaned everything and aired it out, the smell never truly went away. It was as if the walls themselves had a memory. Even stripped bare, the house seemed to hold on to its secrets. At night, it became louder than ever before. There were sharp pops and cracks from the walls, soft thuds in empty rooms that could never be traced. The family reported the constant, unnerving feeling of being watched. Not from outside a window, but from within the very structure of the house itself. It felt as if the walls were no longer empty. They eventually did more research and learned that their house was built during a time when fear was a part of daily life. A time when settlers believed that sickness, famine, and even death could be caused by unseen forces. They believed that protection sometimes required a sacrifice. Whatever rituals had been performed in that house, in those walls, they were meant to last forever. And they did. Because even after all the animal carcasses were removed, even after the walls were professionally cleaned and sealed up again, the foul odor lingered in the air. The mysterious sickness remained, and the house never, ever felt empty again. Some homes are insulated to keep the cold out, but others, it seems, are sealed for far more disturbing reasons. And once those ancient seals are broken, you can never be sure what was being kept inside. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as chilling as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more unsettling tales. See you next time.